There's something strange happening across Australia right now. Around 2.4 million people wake up every week without knowing how many hours they'll work, how much they'll earn, or whether next month's rent will actually be covered. That's nearly 1 in 5 workers in this country living on a casual contract. And if you're one of them, you already know the feeling. The phone rings, the shift gets cancelled, and suddenly your week looks very different. Today, we're going to talk about what life really looks like as a casual worker in Australia in 2026, what it costs you, what it gives you, and how to use it as a stepping stone instead of a trap. Let's start with the money, because that's where most people get confused. From the 1st of July 2026, the national minimum wage rises to $26.44 an hour, following the Fair Work Commission's annual review. If you're casual, you get a 25% loading on top, which brings you to around $33.05 an hour. On paper, that sounds great. More money per hour than your permanent mates earn for the same job, and that's the pitch every employer makes when they hire you. They say the extra 25% is there to make up for the things you don't get, like paid annual leave, paid sick leave, and notice of termination. But here's where it gets interesting. Most casual workers spend that extra loading the moment it hits their account. They treat it like normal income. So when a holiday comes around or they catch the flu for a week, there's nothing sitting in the bank to cover it. Now let's talk about what your week actually looks like. A typical casual worker in retail, hospitality, warehousing, or aged care might get told their roster on a Sunday for the week ahead. You might work 38 hours one week and 11 the next. You might get called in at short notice or sent home early because the store is dead. Your income is real, but it moves like the tide. Banks know this. That's why getting a home loan as a casual worker is harder. Most lenders want to see at least 6 to 12 months of consistent casual work in the same job before they'll even look at your application. And they often only count a portion of your income when they do. There's also a mental side to this that doesn't get talked about enough. Living on a moving income changes how you think. You start checking your roster app 5 times a day. You feel guilty saying no to a shift because you don't know when the next one is coming. You cancel plans with friends because a manager texts you at 8 in the morning asking if you can cover. Over time, this creates a kind of background stress that follows you everywhere. The fix isn't to work harder, it's to build enough financial breathing room that one cancelled shift doesn't feel like a crisis. That's the real goal here, and everything else we're about to talk about feeds into that one outcome. But it's not all bad news. Casual work has real advantages if you use it the right way. You can say no to shifts. You can take 3 weeks off to travel without asking permission. You can stack 2 casual jobs and out-earn most full-time positions in your industry. A casual nurse, a casual bartender, or a casual forklift driver in 2026 can clear more in a strong week than their permanent colleagues do, especially with weekend penalty rates layered on top of the loading. Here's what the smart casual worker does differently. They treat that 25% loading as untouchable. The moment it lands in their account, it gets moved into a separate high-interest savings account. That becomes their personal sick leave fund and their personal annual leave fund. Over a year on full-time hours at minimum wage, that loading alone adds up to roughly $13,000. Imagine having that sitting in an account at the end of every year, ready to cover a holiday, a slow month, or an emergency. That single habit changes everything about what casual work feels like. There's also a piece of the puzzle most casuals completely miss, and it's superannuation. Your employer must pay 12% super on your total earnings, including the casual loading. That means if you earn $1,000 in a week, $120 of super is going into your fund. And from the 1st of July 2026, a major change called Payday Super kicked in, which means your employer now has to pay your super at the same time they pay your wages, not quarterly like before. That's a huge win for casual workers because it means your super gets invested faster, it starts compounding sooner, and you can spot missing payments straight away. Over a working life, that compounds into serious money. But here's the trick. Many casual workers end up with 3, 4, even 5 different super accounts because every new employer opens a new one if you don't tell them otherwise. Each account charges fees. Each one eats into your future. Consolidating your super into one fund through the ATO portal takes about 15 minutes and could save you thousands over the next decade. If you've worked casually for more than 2 years and never checked this, do it this week. Now let's talk about something that changed the game in 2024 and is fully active in 2026, the casual conversion pathway. Under the new Fair Work rules, if you've worked as a casual for 6 months in a small business or 12 months in a larger business and you've been working a regular pattern of hours, you can give written notice that you want to convert to permanent employment. Your employer has to respond and can only refuse on fair and reasonable grounds. This matters because it gives you a choice that didn't exist before. You can stay casual for the flexibility and the loading, or you can convert to permanent and get paid leave, sick days, and far more borrowing power with banks. Neither choice is wrong, but the choice is now yours. The cost of living question is the one everyone is feeling. Rent in most capital cities has climbed faster than wages for 3 years running. Groceries are still painful. Energy bills bite every quarter. For a casual worker, this pressure hits harder because your income isn't predictable. The way out isn't to work more hours until you burn out. The way out is to build a buffer. Most financial stress comes from having zero room to breathe when something goes wrong. If you can save even one full month of expenses, the entire emotional weight of casual work changes. Tax is another area where casual workers either win or lose without realizing it. Because your income moves up and down, your employer often withholds tax based on whatever you earn that pay cycle. In a big week, you can end up taxed at a higher bracket than your actual yearly income justifies. That means come tax time, many casuals are owed a decent refund, but only if they've kept track of their work-related expenses through the year. Uniforms, laundry, travel between job sites, phone use for shift apps, and training courses can all be claimable. Most casuals leave hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on the table simply because they never saved a receipt. Here's the mindset shift that separates casual workers who get stuck from casual workers who get ahead. Stop seeing your job as your income source and start seeing it as your capital source. Every shift you work is fuel. The question is whether you're burning that fuel on lifestyle or using it to build assets. A high interest savings account paying around 5% in 2026 is a starting point. From there, low-cost index funds through an Australian broker let you put money into the market with as little as $5. Even $50 a week invested consistently from your loading becomes a real portfolio inside 3 years. Casual work in Australia isn't a curse, and it isn't a blessing. It's a tool for students, parents, semi-retirees, second job earners, and people who genuinely want freedom over their time. It's one of the best arrangements in the world. For people who fell into it by accident and never built any structure around it, it can feel like running on a treadmill that never stops. The difference between those two experiences isn't the job. It's the system the worker builds around the job. If you're casual right now, here's your homework for this week. Find out exactly what your base rate is and what your loading adds. Open a separate savings account just for that loading. Check how many super accounts you have and consolidate them. And if you've been in the same casual job for over a year, sit down and decide whether you want to stay casual or convert. If this helped you see your situation differently, do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you there.